Now, as you all are very well aware, Kathleen Kennedy has not really made the greatest decisions before in the past with the sequels, with the Kenobi series, with the Book of Boba Fett, and a lot more beyond that, of course. And to this day, we know that she's still working very hard on the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. That's really considered to be a very controversial set of series. For multiple reasons, because number one, it's focusing away from George Lucas's philosophy, and number two, it's going to have a lot of retcons toward different aspects of the Star Wars franchise. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, I will admit, The Mandalorian Season 3 finale is exactly how the entirety of the season should have been. I thought it was the most engaging episode that really caught my interest. Sure, it was a little bit slow in the very beginning, but about 10 minutes in, it really picked up, and I loved, I gotta say, everything to do with Moff Gideon's performance in this episode. But moving on to what Kathleen Kennedy recently had to, of course, do in order to make a lot of sacrifices for a specific Star Wars project actually bounces back to actor Pedro Pascal and the character of Din Djarin. And this is very concerning because this is causing more attention over at Lucasfilm, especially with the cast and the crew of a specific Star Wars show that Kathleen Kennedy, of course, is heavily involved in, and exactly what she recently did to Pedro Pascal and why. We're going to be explaining every single tidbit about all of this, of what happened behind closed doors between herself, Pedro, and the character of Din Djarin and Grogu, and more. Now, with Kathleen Kennedy using Acolyte and Skeleton Crew as her last-ditch effort to prove to Disney about her stance on Star Wars, she recently finalized a big change for Skeleton Crew that involved Pedro Pascal. After many of the reshoots were initiated for Skeleton Crew, which by the way is why fans have no release date to this day on the show, during those reshoots, Kennedy decided to fire actor Pedro Pascal from the show, where he was supposed to make a big cameo at the middle point of the series to have a big scene with Grogu. Further, it's noted that the main reason why Kennedy decided to pull this scene is that Pedro was demanding his face to be shown so he would be credited as an actor and not as a voice actor, and was tired of having the helmet on the entire time in Season 3. He did not want to be considered a voice actor for Skeleton Crew, which is what Kennedy was labeling and casting him as, since he had, of course, no face reveal scenes. This caused the tension between the two to the point that Kennedy decided to drop Pedro from the show and fire him. This does not mean he is fired from Mando 4 or Ahsoka Season 2, however, just this project alone. Now, this scene consisted of holding a big moment with Jude Law's character, where Din and Grogu are fighting alongside Jude Law's character, who is wielding a saber colored green. Now, let me just stop here for a second. That's very interesting, the fact that Kathleen Kennedy was labeling him as a voice actor for Skeleton Crew. I'm not sure if they did that with Mando Season 3, but that's what Kennedy was trying to label him as in Skeleton Crew, because he was not showing his face, and he was not necessarily playing the character in part all the time. Consistently, they had some people step in for some of the stunts. Interestingly enough, Kathleen Kennedy decided to really kind of just pull Pedro Pascal from the show because he was actually demanding his face to be unveiled in Skeleton Crew. And I gotta be honest, it really does make one wonder. Exactly, was Pedro's, stance on this a correct one or not? There's multiple reasons why he would want his face to be shown. Obviously he's an actor, he probably wants to really kind of get that, overall limelight, so to speak, where people know who he really is behind the mask. So far, we have only gotten a glimpse of him, unmasked in Season 1, and at the very end of Season 2, we really got a lot of his unmasking features. But Season 3, before, of course, John and Dave had a lot of privileges over at Lucasfilm, believe it or not, Kathleen Kennedy demanded and got it approved that Pedro would not have his face shown in Season 3 at all. And you know what? It's kind of funny because it almost felt like he was almost going to do it, and then he didn't. And now, basically, this causes more tension for Kathy and Pedro. So, moving on to the next thing here is that Jude Law's character is described to be a Jedi, but it's unclear if he is an ex-Jedi or if he was or is a master or student. Pedro had shot most of his scenes with his helmet on, but wanted and demanded a scene to be filmed with it off. Footage was shot and cancelled by Kennedy during the most recent reshoots for the series. Pedro and Kathy are now said to not have the greatest business relationship together anymore, and it's causing more drama behind closed doors, over at Lucasfilm, for the cast and the crew of Skeleton Crew, and more. Kennedy instead now replaced Din Djarin with a brand new Mandalorian that will make an appearance in Skeleton Crew. Now, again, we're still not quite sure exactly where Skeleton Crew takes place in the timeline of the Mandoverse. Does it take place after Season 3? Does it take place after or before Season 4? We're just not quite sure about that just yet. And that's still being worked into the script or into some of the reshoots that they are currently engaging with right now. But the thing that I find so unfair about this is how Kathleen Kennedy was trying to label Pedro as a voice actor, when, yes, he was even acting at some points in time in the suit, alright, in the Mandalorian suit of Din Djarin. He was in there. Not all the time, but he was in there. And if you're in there, you should definitely be labeled as an actor, for Skeleton Crew. I don't know why she was trying to change him to just being a voice actor. I could maybe see if he was not playing Din at all, period, in Skeleton Crew at all, and he was just providing voiceover work, that's a different story. But he was actually on set doing some of these fight scenes, and then a double was coming in to take over the appearance of Din to do some of the stunt work. So that's exactly why Skeleton Crew has been one of the most toxic environments, working-wise, for Star Wars in history. This is a known thing. It's a very toxic production. It has been going through a lot of problems, a lot of issues, so to speak, that caused a lot of setbacks. Again, Star Wars Celebration. They still, to this day, did not unveil a release date for Skeleton Crew, and that's why. They just say it's coming out in 2023, yet we have Ahsoka, alright, who is coming out, or which, by the way, is coming out this August. That would label Skeleton Crew to come out, if they make it in 2023, around November to December. That seems more realistic than an October or September release. So anyways, I would really like to hear what you guys have to say about this, because I don't know if you guys think it's unfair to Pedro Pascal for being labeled as a voice actor by Kathleen Kennedy, if he even was on the set in the Din Djarin costume, and what you guys have to say about all of that and this whole entire situation between Pedro and Kathy. It just gets messier and messier over the past couple of months. So, anyways, I would really like to hear what you guys have to say about this entire situation for Skeleton Crew, and if you guys really did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.